Shouldn't I trust Frank Herbert?
Within limits you will learn and appreciate. For now, I warn you, sci-fi authors work under a system of organized distrust. Have they taught you about democracy?
Yes, sir. That's where you vote for.
That's where you distrust anyone with power over you. The patrons, Mickey Mouse, the patrons know it well. Oh boy. Don't trust too much.
Then I should not trust you either.
It's becoming Mickey Mouse. The only trust you can place in me is that I will do my best to discuss Dune in depth at every opportunity.
Then I don't care how much it hurts. It just really became Mickey Mouse.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Dune.
Oh my goodness. Young Miles Tegg is just Mickey.
Canonically, that's crazy.
Welcome to Gomcha Bar, your guide to the iconic world of Dune. We'll be exploring the themes, philosophies, and characters found in the sandy depths of this vast universe, from Frank Herbert's groundbreaking novels to the adaptations on film and TV. My name's Abu.
My name is Leo.
And Leo, we are back once again in the hot seat.
Oh, it's so hot.
It's scalding.
It's actually not hot. I have this blanket.
Oh, it's cozy.
Yeah, I'm like a little granny. I'm like so bundled up. It's great. It's wonderful. But this book is hot. And oh my God,
this book is scorching hot.
Scorching hot. It's a scorcher. Yeah. Oh my God. These were some dense chapters and nothing fucking happened. It was like
so true.
The literal opposite ends of like name the verbs that were enacted. No verbs.
None.
All just vibes, thoughts.
All vibes.
Philosophy.
But so much to talk about. Such a dense and long script that I'm excited to work through. But before we get ahead of ourselves and dive into today's reading, let's knock out some housekeeping. Starting, of course, with our spoiler warning. Folks, you know the drill for these book club episodes. Today's discussion will contain no spoilers beyond the pages and books we've covered thus far on the podcast. So as long as you are caught up with the reading, you are good to listen today.
You are indeed. And as always, a huge shout out to our Quisatz Hatterack level patrons, Daniel Dion, Seth Redengreer, Brad Hutchins, Kevin Mohenram, and Roger Young. Oh, good Lord. I went for a walk the other night, fellas, looking up at the stars, the snow crunching under my shoes, the trees swaying in the breeze. And I saw you all there standing, chewing your cud.
Right.
Generously. Just that look of just benevolence in your eyes, all five of you.
That's what you're meant to do.
It was horrifying to find five people standing in the darkness when I was expecting to be alone. But listen, I appreciate you nevertheless. You're amazing. Thank you.
That's right. That's our way of saying thank you. And of course, our heartfelt thank yous extend to all of our patrons who, as far as we're concerned, can all be standing out under the starlight.
Join us.
Chewing on some grass.
It's cold, but we've got blankets.
We've got blankets. It's cozy up in here. Thank you all so much for truly supporting this show and helping build the foundation upon which we run this whole damn operation, frankly. Wouldn't be possible without you.
That's so true. So, that out of the way. Today's episode, let's go over the kind of what you can expect. This is a book club episode. Nothing should be too surprising. We are going to go with a summary of today's chapters. Then we'll dive into a takeaway. And finally, we'll wrap up with some yummy, yummy spice morsels, both of which with a French kind of French kind of approach to their
real butter.
Today.
Real deal butter.
Ooh,
Not that fake shit we have in the States here.
Yeah. Real butter indeed. But before we get to that, real butter and all, let's take a quick break. When we're back, we're going to jump into our chapter summaries.
Welcome back, folks. Let's begin today by summarizing the assigned reading, starting with chapter 19. So, our first chapter today rides along with Odrade. Ever heard of her? Greatest mother superior to ever grace the Bene Gesserit?
She's the best. She's so good. Uh-huh.
And this is a riveting chapter, folks. You will never guess what Odrade is up to in these pages.
I can't. Is she like in her office thinking?
Yeah.
Oh. Nailed it.
She, in fact, spends this whole chapter either in her office thinking, or in the orchards walking around and mulling over the honored Matre threat and what to do about it as leader of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. And that's chapter 19. Okay, moving on. Chapter 20. That's the summary of this chapter. Just kidding. There's so much to talk about in this chapter. As usual, it is chock full of some dense ideas from Frank Herbert. So in this summary, let's touch on some of the most important moments and call them out.
Let's do it.
So from the very top of this chapter, it is clear that, Leo, things are looking grim. The outlook is not good for the sisterhood. Odrade's thoughts are racing as she mulls over the same questions over and over again. What to do about the honored Matre, how to move against them, how to understand them, etc., etc. And at one point, she even ponders whether it's time for the sisterhood to enter something called extremis progressiva.
Oh my gosh, is that like an insurance policy?
That does sound like a great and expensive insurance policy.
Yeah, I can't afford that. That's out of my tax bracket for sure.
It's not an insurance policy. In fact, it is sort of the final gambit of the sisterhood for survival. They would share their memories as far and wide as they could among the Reverend Mothers and then scatter across the universe in some last-ditch effort to survive.
Pulling a real Oprah. Everyone look under your chairs. You've got my memories, and you've got my memories, and you get up, don't go fuck out. Leave.
That's right. That's right. Really last-ditch stuff, you know? Like, this would be giving up on the sisterhood and just hoping someone out there makes it in the universe and survives.
Yeah.
That is where things are. It's bad. It's dark.
Yeah.
While all of this is happening, Belinda, who's just like sitting across from Odrade staring at her.
Incredible.
Really incredible stuff. Belinda tells us that large portions of the sisterhood are beginning to question Odrade's leadership.
Yeah.
And in fact, they've apparently just now taken a vote on whether or not to literally oust Odrade from her position as Mother Superior. Wild stuff. All of this is happening off page, to be clear.
Yeah. Like the most riveting season of like a political show. Completely off page.
Off page. We're just getting reports from Belinda and to Emmeline on what's going on.
Emmeline comes in. It was one vote. Okay, show us. Show us the vote. Show us the room.
Crazy stuff is happening off page. But as you're saying, Leo, Odrade does manage to remain in power. Just barely ekes by with enough votes in support for her. And in fact, one of the votes is quite notable. One of the votes in support for Odrade came from the proctor Praska, who you'll recall from the last book club episode, was the proctor that Odrade startled with the laughter as she walked by her in the hallway, and Odrade told her that it's good to be alive.
Yeah. Like a moment where it was clear Odrade was kind of just covering for being lost in her thoughts and being a little too, but even just that quick pivot, you know, and Belinda treats this moment like, did you literally laugh at a proctor?
Yeah.
Like,
what?
And what the fuck are you doing?
People are worried about you, Odrade.
People are questioning your sanity. And yet, Praska was the tie-breaking vote.
That's right.
And yet, something about that moment reminded Praska of like, fuck yeah, maybe it is good to be alive. Maybe that's the kind of leadership we need, who just laughs sometimes, you know? Just, why not?
We see some of that heresy bleed, you know, the trickle down effect of Odrade's heresy to the other sisters in the organization.
Yeah.
Maybe Praska is starting to believe a little bit about living life.
Like, yeah, just being in the fucking moment, Praska. Like whatever Praska was doing, gone. Because Praska's like the Reverend Mother Superior is cackling to herself. Like, there's definitely a sweet immediacy there. And I love that moment. And I love that Frank brings that moment back and goes, look, Odrade is actually holding on to her seat of power through her heresy and through her heretical attitude.
Right.
That so upsets Belanda, representative of the careful plotting, we have to go to the archives to see what we do next and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's so rich.
Yeah, it's a small detail, but an extremely important one for sure. Now, as the chapter continues, Belanda and Odrade return to the topic that is on everyone's mind, the Honored Matres. They discuss what potential strategic moves are at their disposal. What should they do? Should we attack the economic hub of Gamu, maybe? Shut down the economy? Should we attack Junction? The Honored Matre really seem to be building a stronghold there. They discuss a number of different moves and strategies at play. And through this discussion, we learned that the Touge, if you'll recall her from last episode, the Touge has been sent off to set Odrade's trap for the Honored Matre, that crazy plan that they came up with from last episode. But we have yet to hear back. The Touge has gone radio silent, and that, of course, is another reason for concern for the Mother Superior.
She's like, did I just send that dope woman to her death? I love her. Is she dead now because of me? It's possible.
I've been left on red, and it's making me break out in a sweat. Yeah. Now, as we wind down this chapter, eventually Odrade retires from her office and goes to her sleeping chambers, but her thoughts are still broiling. And she's basically unable to sleep. She imagines the Spider Queen. She continues to think about the Honored Matre, etc. We learn from this moment that Odrade's conversations with Merbella actually have yielded a lot of very useful information about the Honored Matre. And Odrade is beginning to really piece together how their enemy thinks, what their enemy's worldview is. Quote, Spider Queen's people went beyond arrogance, far beyond. No censure possible. You might just as well berate a cow for eating grass.
Yeah.
The cow would be justified in looking at you with its moonstruck eyes, inquiring, isn't this what I'm supposed to do? End quote.
So good. Frank is having fun with this, and I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. And it's, in fact, this line of thinking, as Odrade is kind of weaving her way through these thoughts, that lead Odrade to a huge realization. And we're going to talk much more in depth about this realization in our takeaway later in the episode. So let's put a pin in that discussion for now. But the gist of it is that she realizes that the Honored Matre aren't capable of even considering that any actions they take are a mistake. They're incapable of conceiving of their own mistakes. Fundamentally, at their core.
God, that's like an aspirational level of self-confidence. I'm like, I'll do something, get top marks, and be like, yeah, but it was probably fucked up somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a level of narcissism that truly never been seen before. And of course, this revelation, Odrade was already never about to get any sleep here. This revelation kind of seals the deal. She jolts back up and is like, all right, fuck this. I'm not going to sleep. She has an assistant make her like a 5-hour energy tea or something. She chugs that shit and goes out into the orchards in the middle of the night for a walk. A place that she often goes to think things over. It is a calming place for her to be. And so to wrap up this chapter, she comes across some cows in the orchard and speaks aloud to them. Quote, she spoke aloud to the cattle clustered by the fence. Eat your grass. It's what you're supposed to do. If a spying watchdog chanced on that remark, Odrade knew she would have serious explaining to do. But I have seen through the heart of our enemy this night, and I pity them. End quote. That's where our chapter ends, folks.
God, Frank's really firing on all cylinders. And I know this because I've read this before and I'm reading it again and still going, I know there's something that I'm missing and I'm so excited to get it. You know, like he's clearly working with lots of layers. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, that carries us into our second chapter. Second chapter today is chapter 20. We are with Duncan and Child Teg in the training room of the No Ship. Duncan has begun his slow but steady preparation of Teg for his awakening process. This big question mark. It seems too early. All the Bene Gesserit are saying it's too early, but Odrade knows that time is against them. They need it now. They need Teg's mind now more than ever, especially if they're going to go into the Spider Queen's lair on Junction. They need Teg's intel. Now, throughout this chapter, Duncan's mind is split. He's thinking as much about the old Bashar, his teacher, this fatherly figure who looked so much like the old Duke, who woke him up, who brought his memories back, as much as he is also thinking about the child in front of him, seeing the kind of parallels, also reflecting on the very weird quality of being a Gola awakening another Gola, which I think this is the first time we're ever seeing this.
Right. I don't think that has ever happened.
Yeah. Which is very cool. I think that's great.
Right.
And for sure allows for a level of like simpatico between them that has never happened before. Golas are always like a project of some people, but Duncan's like, I know what you're going to go through, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to be awful.
Right. I know that mental and physical pain intimately in a way that no one else who would ever awaken you could tell you about. It's unique.
It's so unique, in fact, that while he is, in many ways, Murbella is watching part of this process. She's like, he's following the manual somewhat. The Bene Gesserit manual on awakening a Gola's original memories, which is a fucking insane book title. Like, imagine you're walking into someone's house, you see that on the shelf, you're like, on awakening a Gola's memory. Why are you doing that often? Like, enough to have a book?
Wow. Should I check this out? 4 stars on Goodreads.
That's shockingly well written, considering the dry subject matter. And there's diagrams. Oh, those are not safe for work. Uh-oh. So he's following that manual to, like, almost to a T until he isn't. And there are moments when he diverges from that. And there's this big question that Murbella has, but also that we have as the reader, where we don't know why he's diverging from the sort of prescribed task. And maybe it's that he is also a Gola and understands that there is probably a better way to do this. I can't help but think about Leto 2 and Ganima looking at the way that the Bene Gesserit have been handling Abomination and going, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Such a good point.
So we have this outsider who's going, I get that this is how they know to do it. I think that they've overlooked something.
Great point.
Yeah. And as John Curtis points out, he also shares a story about his dog who hates clams, a dog that he once had who hates clams because it spit in the dog's face. And then he just ate a bunch of clams. He was...
Love that story.
So funny. It was great. And Teg understood the story and was like, so we're dogs? And he's like, yeah. Sorry to tell you, kid. We're just dogs for the Bene Gesserit. He's like, oh boy. oh boy. So anyway.
I thought it was a mouse.
That was a mouse. Yeah, the art style was always a little bit ambiguous. So Duncan's lessons are ranging from intellectual to physical. He's giving him ideas, but he's also showing him like fighting methods, because the more in sync this child is with the old Bashar, in theory, I guess the easier it'll be to break through that barrier and become the old Bashar.
Yeah.
And it's during that story of the clam spit dog that Murbella actually joins them. And Duncan shares that story is as much for Murbella as it is for Teg. Throughout this, I get this impression that Duncan doesn't like seeing Murbella, this person that he's like bonded to sexually, fading into just another Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother. I think he sees some of the sort of stagnation within the sisterhood and that like far away, removed, not present with him in this moment look on her face that she gets. And he has those thoughts. Oh, that's what she's going to look like as a fully Reverend Mother. Interesting. I don't like it. You know? So I think that's this lesson is also for her, saying, you know, you might love your new sisterhood and you might be grateful to Odrade for X, Y, and Z, but keep in mind, we're all dogs. Even they're you know, they're watchdogs to one another. We're all dogs. It's dogs all the way down. The whole universe is just dogs on dogs on dogs. Now, Murbella throughout this chapter is also lost in her thoughts, right?
Right.
By the way, this read through, I'm shocked at how steady and slow, but also like consistent Murbella's transformation is. every time she appears on page, I feel like she's more a Reverend Mother. She's more Bene Gesserit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird to think of her as like the feral, wild, sex-crazed, murderous person that she was in Heretics.
Right.
Now she is nearly like a Lucilla or like a Tamerlane, or she is very much like a Bene Gesserit character. It's kind of interesting. I wonder how much Frank's writing of her was as careful as it seems.
Yeah.
But she is grappling with the loss of her culture, the loss of what it was like to be an honored matre, right? The thrill of being a part of this unstoppable force that no one could reckon with. And like short-sighted, sure, but you got to fuck all the time. And you just had streams of boys that you're like, oh, I'd like bring me another man. And then you just did. And then you could go kill some people. And it was great. And now she's like learning history. And she's all shacked up with this one guy. And yeah, he's great at climbing rocks. But he's out here being like, we're all dogs. Like, it's not the life she envisioned, right. A young honored matre envisioned for herself.
Yeah. It's that sort of painful bit of self-reflection that the honored matre seem incapable of doing. Right? And I really appreciated that from Mirbella's perspective here, we got a bit of the grief that she's feeling about her former life. She wants to be a Bene Gesserit, to be clear. She's not like pining to go back to being an honored matre or anything. But that doesn't mean there isn't some sort of grief of the death of her old life there, and still clearly lingering feelings. Like there is a rush to always being on the winning team, right? And now she no longer is. And she is grappling with that fact that she still kind of has feelings about her past life and desires still aligned with that, but she is now recognizing the dangers in those desires in a way that many honored matre are maybe never trained to do.
Yeah, I saw a singer-songwriter tweet once, you can miss something without wanting it back. And it's like, beautiful. Absolutely.
Wow, that encapsulates it beautifully.
Or like we long for the whimsy of our childhood, but the reality of like our ignorance and the way that we hurt people unintentionally. And like they're like, I think it really is. She thinks about it like childhood. She's like, I've grown out of that stuff. I've matured away from those beliefs. I don't think I could do them now. But I also see this as like, I hear from friends who have like lives as immigrants who join a country or join a community or they move. I'm about to move to France at some point. So like I will probably have much more to say about this in 10 years. But there's an element of like, you do give up stuff in order to be a part of the new thing. And so she has given up stuff to be a part of the Bene Gesserit. Yes. And Duncan sees it more than anyone else. And it's not all good.
Yes.
Some of it is like, maturing, but some of it's like falling into this dogma and falling into this way of seeing things. It's so fascinating. So she's giving us a lot of that insight into her mind. And in fact, she actually, in her thoughts, echoes some of what O'Drade has been figuring out on her own, of course, helped by the breadcrumbs that Mirbella is giving her.
Yeah.
Quote, honored matres never contemplated defeat. Mirbella felt herself forced to it. She knew honored matres were sometimes slain by enemies. Those enemies always paid. It was the law. Whole planets blackened to get one offender. End quote. So, by the way, love that, because I think the end of Heretics, where we find out that Super Teg, decimates the honored matres forces, so they blacken and glass the planet with nukes. I have often thought about that as that is a mark of what Teg did. But this is Mirbella telling us, no. This is what the honored matre do. They will glass a planet to kill one person. And that's how people know not to fuck with them.
Right.
So like that's fascinating because it shifts the perspective on the end of Heretics a little bit.
Right.
This is not because of how scary Teg was. This is just by the book. They're like, oh, what's that? Oh, he killed. Okay. Well, glass the planet. Yeah. That's on page 3 of the manual. Right. So it's only a 4-page manual.
Yeah. Oh, he embarrassed us? Well, we're incapable of losing. So
kill the whole planet.
Nuke the planet.
He might have talked to someone about it. Mirbella also reveals something new about the origins of the honored matre, and I found this so fascinating.
This is huge, folks. This is fucking
huge.
huge.
Brace yourselves. You're not going to be able to buckle yourselves in. It's 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday. Make sure you're wearing a seatbelt. Quote, a terrible pride. It had grown out of being subjugated so many generations before they gained their own ascendancy. Murbella had tried to convey this to Odrade, recounting from history taught by honored matres. The slave makes an awful master, Odrade said. End quote.
Oh my God.
Like, I think we had this idea when you listen to Belanda and Tom Elaine and you look at Shiana, who's like doing these like sexual things, and you talk about like the honored matre sexuality. It's talked about as this like slippery slope where you start by unleashing these sexual powers and then you slowly become an honored matre. And that is so clearly now just naivety and paranoia on behalf of those Bene Gesserit members, because in fact, it seems like the honored matre have a history of being subjugated and enslaved. And at least based on what we've learned so far in the book, I think it's safe to say by maybe some sort of like new face dancer with their bread futar, like killers, and they're, this is like shaping this picture. Mm-hmm. They were subjugated and they broke out of that subjugation, and all they knew were violent ends to violent means to violent ends. Violence on violence, dogs on dogs on dogs, right. So this is fascinating. So interesting. I couldn't help but notice the way Frank wrote it, history taught by the honored matres. How much of this is the storytelling and the theory crafting? How much of this is the honored matres going, oh, our journey began when we overthrow those fucking idiots who thought we couldn't, and that's our first victory was the beginning of us. Maybe it's a much more complicated story than even Murbella does, but we don't have access to that because we have the lens of the historian obscuring the nuance of the tale,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm going to pull this one out of the hat.
Sure.
I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Oh shit! Mark your bingo cards.
I'm sure there is truth, and in fact, I do believe that they were subjugated. I don't think that is probably a totally falsified account of their history, but how they got to where they are now, I'm sure there's a bit of like lore and myth building there that they have told themselves over the years that continues to reinforce their culture and their worldview. And so, I'm sure the story of the honored matre come up is much more nuanced and messy than even Murbella has ever been taught. But I do believe there's a grain of truth here in the fact that they were subjugated and ultimately fought their way out of it through violent means. And that has created the culture of the honored matre that we know now and the honored matre that Odrade has to face.
Yeah, I think you're right. And part of that is also like Odrade doesn't push back. There isn't really that much more discourse on it. And generally that would be the thing where Frank would add in an epigraph or something to cue to us, hey, maybe this shouldn't be taken at face value. So I think you're right. I think there's truth to what she's saying. But in any case, the chapter ends as Duncan and Teg's training for the day wraps up. Duncan gives Teg homework. I wrote that and then was like, oh, it is okay. It's literally homework, because what his homework is to look at a picture of his home and to be like, that's my home. This is my home. I love it. It's my home. That's where I grew up. I love it. It's my home.
Sweet home.
Home sweet home.
Put up a Chugi sign in the kitchen, home is where the heart is.
Live, laugh, live, It's the Gola. It's the Gola sign.
It's the Gola version.
Yeah,
right?
Live, laugh, die, live again.
Live, die, live.
Live, die, live is fucking awesome. Yeah. So home sweet home. That's the goal. It's wine o'clock somewhere. That's his homework. He has to look at this picture. And again, all of this is to narrow whatever psychological barriers there are, these kind of Gola barriers that are like mentally walling off all of his memories. Those have to be thinned. And how you do that is by aligning him with who Teg was and Teg's upbringing. We got some like interesting throwaway lines where they like have recreated Teg's childhood with like a surrogate brother. Like
crazy.
I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck? Who's that actor? Like, who are they casting into these roles? That's an insane job. But in any case, the other thing that happens at the end of this chapter is Duncan, clearly a little bit, I don't know, worked up. I got kind of an interesting energy from Duncan at the end of this chapter. He passes Marbella. Marbella's noticing that he's like off course a little bit. She's like, oh, he's not really doing things the way that the handbook says to do things. He passes her and goes, I need to find a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this.
Right.
I need to talk to Shiana. We need to figure out a better way to do this.
What could that mean?
Yeah. It's like, is it that he has this affection for the child? He has this camaraderie with this kid who is so valuable to him personally that he's trying to avoid the kind of horrors of his own awakening? Is it like, what is it? And we don't know yet. We have to keep reading.
We don't know yet.
And what does Shiana have to do with it? I was like, what the fuck, Shiana? Why? She's out in the desert fucking up sculptures. Like,
yeah, we haven't seen her since like chapter 2 of this fucking book or something.
She's still in this book? Oh shit. All right.
I think she's going to come back in a big way because Odrade also, in one of her passing thoughts, was like, I got to go talk to Shiana. Yeah. I got to go out to the desert. So I suspect Shiana's coming
Shiana's back. Team's calendar is like full tomorrow of like meetings with all these people. Belanda wants to talk. Belanda's like, I just want to stare at you for 30 minutes in silence. She's like, oh, Belanda, please.
Ugh. The worst kinds of meetings. All right, let's wrap up our summary with a pretty short final chapter today. Yeah. Chapter 21 is a small one where we are with Duncan once again, and he is knee deep in that vision of the old couple. Remember
again?
That crazy vision that he's been having?
Oh my God.
And what's notable about this time is that this vision is taking place outside of the Great Hold. Crazy. It's usually triggered when he goes in there, like something about the hold, the combination of that, the energy in that room triggers it, the smell of spice. Yeah. But this vision is happening outside that hold. So now it's starting to come to him more frequently is what I sensed here, and coming on more stronger for him. We also get much more details about this vision this time around. Duncan, in fact, describes this old couple in great detail, what they look like, what they're wearing, what tools they have on their tool belts, because they're standing in like a garden.
Yeah.
It is incredibly detailed.
The most detailed Frank has ever been about anyone.
Ever. About any character.
You're telling me about the look in their eyes? I don't even know if half of your characters have eyes, Frank.
Right. What color are Duncan Idaho's eyes? Has Frank ever written that on the page?
He said almond shaped at one point. And then he said cockerel, like the sheep wool, like 6 times. That's it. And now he's like, this woman, grandmotherly. She has a grandmotherly air. This guy wearing like this type. He's like Carhartt
short cropped hair. Like insane. Yeah, we have such a detail. Like if I was a better artist, like I feel like I could confidently, accurately draw a photo of these two older folks that Duncan is seeing in his visions. A really detailed description of them, which I think is supposed to signal to us, the reader, that these visions are becoming very sharp.
Yes. Yeah.
These are not like blurry half flashes that he's seeing. He is starting to see like fucking 4K into these visions now.
Yeah.
And what he ultimately sort of deduces is that this elderly couple is giving face dancer vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they are face dancers for sure.
Right.
It's that he is picking up on strong face dancer vibes from them. And it's at this moment that Marbella, who, if you'll recall, is now more Bene Gesserit than ever, walks into the room, sees him in this trance, and is like, whoa, babe.
My guy, you're sitting and sweating. Those are bad. That's a bad combination.
This is a bad look on the comm-eyes. Belanda's going to be shitting herself watching you do this, thinking you're the Kwisatz Haderach.
Kwisatz Haderach shit, yeah.
Yeah. So she's kind of like, oh my gosh, stop doing this. Don't do this. What's going on? Are you seeing that thing again? But Duncan is kind of over it. He's had enough of this. And he's clearly frustrated. He feels like the Bene Tleilax have fucked with him, which we know they have fucked with many Golas over the years. And constantly, he is now like this weird amalgamation of every Gola of Duncan Idaho.
He's got all the fucking width accumulated.
So So he's over it. He's like, no, Marbella, babe, I need to figure out what's going on. I need to turn inward. And he does.
Babe, take 3 steps back. I'm going into my mind palace.
Babe.
She's like, don't go into your mind palace. He's like, 4 steps back, babe.
4 steps. This is going to be a real
back.
trip into my palace. And that's what he does. He goes into his mind palace. He digs deeper into his memories. And we wanted to share, this is a bit of a long passage, but it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to share it in full. This is what happens when Duncan dives deep into his mind palace, basically. Quote, faces, a succession of masks, different views of this person he called myself. Slightly imbalanced faces, hair sometimes gray, sometimes the jet caracal of his current life. Sometimes humorous, sometimes grave and seeking inward for wisdom to meet a new day. Somewhere in all of that lay a consciousness that observed and deliberated. Someone who made choices. Mm-hmm. The Tleilaxu had tampered with that. Idaho felt his blood pumping hard and knew danger was present. This was what he was intended to experience, but not by the Tleilaxu. He had been born with it. This is what it means to be alive. No memory from his other lives. Nothing the Tleilaxu had done to him. None of that changed his deepest awareness one whit. End quote.
Dude.
Wow.
First, I just want to say that I think that there's this breakdown in a lot of like meditative practices, and this is also where I think maybe Frank had learned a little bit, but in like Buddhism there's this idea of like you start to question what your like self-image is, how immutable it is, how unchanging it is, and the idea of masks is so evocative, and the idea that a Gola even would look back on thousands of lives as Duncan Idaho and see them as different masks, but looking out from those masks is the one who makes decisions. And that's just beautiful. I mean, it's like such an interesting marriage of real philosophy, but also this is what it means to be alive, is to make those choices, to live with that danger. And yeah, maybe the Tleilaxu fucked with him, but they cannot fuck with like the deepest part of him. And I was definitely getting like sea child vibes here.
Yeah.
Where even like O'Drade is going, the deepest penetrating gaze of the proctors had no way of discerning that she had this inner core of sea child who lay unchanged even after her many eras.
Such a great analogy.
And so I'm like, oh, maybe this is Duncan's kind of sea child. Maybe sea child is an apt analogy for Gola, for serial lives, for, you know, or just being present in the moment. Like it's that choosing, you're choosing something in that moment and no longer all caught up in what mask am I wearing at any given moment. I don't know. It's so beautiful. I'm like, this is a sci-fi book. And yet the thoughts I have after reading are often very in line with like, oh, I've just read a book on philosophy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the sea child comparison, Leo, is brilliant. I think you're spot on with that. And I definitely can see that at play here, that Duncan is getting in touch with what O'Drade would call her own inner sea child. And he is now getting in touch with that here.
Mm-hmm.
See Duncan or something. All right, let's wrap up this chapter and today's summaries. This chapter 21, ends as Duncan comes back out of his mind palace and he's like, babe, you can take 4 steps forward again.
Babe.
And let's talk. And in fact, he's talking to Marbella, but he directs his comments at the Kamais. He knows who's always watching and listening. And he basically hints at the revelation that he's come across at this point. He's deduced that the 2 quote unquote face dancer grandparents that he keeps seeing in these visions now are probably that great enemy that the honored Matre have been running from. They are the jury that condemned the honored Matre and forced them to run from that unknown universe out there in the scattering and return here to the old Imperium. And that's huge. That is a huge dot to connect that I don't think anyone in the Sisterhood has yet to connect.
Yeah, Dortugela, the Touge, as we call her affectionately, was talking about these people, the handlers of the Futars, being face dancer-like, having the vibes, but none of the markers.
Right.
So I feel pretty comfortable saying that like maybe these are the same sorts of people. I mean, I don't imagine the standard handler has this sort of like space and time bending godlike ability to peer into Duncan's room with their silvery Pokeball that shrieks at Duncan. Like it's a very weird moment. And I do get the impression that these two are in a different league. But man, we are really, again, Frank is scratching the unknown in such an interesting way.
Yeah.
6 books into this series where we are so comfortable with things like Golas. We're like, yeah, Golas, whatever. Chair dogs, we're getting used to them a little bit. But then you have like, anything. All of the details from the scattering are all so bizarre. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our chapter summaries for today's assigned reading, chapters 19, 20, and 21. Folks, let's take a quick breather. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to dive into our takeaway and talk about this huge, huge revelation that Odrade has about the Honored Matre. We'll see you in a minute.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, I hope you enjoyed your break. Let's get into our takeaway today. And our takeaway looks at Odrade. Poor Odrade. It's such an unenviable position.
Right. Girl, get some sleep.
Get some sleep, Odrade. Stop chugging the 5-hour energies. So throughout this book, right, we've talked at length about how Frank is using the Honored Matre as this sort of mirror that he's holding up to the Bene Gesserit. And that in many ways kind of justifies their almost comedic brutality and evilness. Like they are comic book villains, but that becomes kind of a poignant thing to think about when it is also clear that they are so similar to the Bene Gesserit in so many ways.
Yeah.
I will admit that at this point, because we've talked about it a few times, it starts to feel heavy-handed. I'm like, all right, Frank, we fucking get it, Frank.
Yeah.
I say that having fully missed it the first time I read the book. But nevertheless, today we wanted to take some of these new details that have come up in today's chapters and look at a new angle of all of this, especially in the light of Odrade's revelation and what got her out into the field with the cows. Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's multifaceted. Like, yes, the Honored Matre hold a mirror to the Bene Gesserit. Like, that's the broad stroke of this whole book. You know, that could be our takeaway every single episode, basically. But there's always reasons to revisit because within that takeaway, there's just all these really, really important details. And I think today there's a number of details from Odrade's revelation that are worth touching on.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's start with Odrade's revelation here from her thoughts. We get this incisive observation about the Honored Matre from her. Quote, "A right to rule? It did appear to Odrade that these women insisted on such a right. No, they assumed that their rightness must never be questioned. Never. No decisions wrong. Disregard consequences. It never happened."
It never happened.
End quote.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm like, disregard consequences. You have to sometimes. If you're about to do something, you just have to go, yeah, whatever happens, happens. Like, I just got to do it.
Yeah.
It never happens. Fucking insane.
Wild. Right. Now, of course, this is the train of thought, as we talked about in our chapter summary earlier. This is the train of thought that jolts her out of bed, gets her chugging that Monster Energy tea, and leads to the realization that the Honored Matre are unable to even conceive of making mistakes. They simply cannot and will not accept that they are capable at all of making mistakes. And what I found especially interesting is the fact that this revelation is paired with Mirbella's thoughts in chapter 20, where she talks about the subjugation of the honored matre. Because for me, that really clicks two pieces of the puzzle into place. The honored matre are this way. They are aggressive and reactive and incapable of believing themselves of making a mistake, because that is how they survived. That is the source of their come up out of their subjugation.
Right.
That's, to me, is very clear from Mirbella's thoughts. And what's interesting is that Odrade realizes that despite this dominating position the honored matres have in the Old Imperium, right? They are just sweeping this galaxy left and right.
Gone.
Gone.
Like Arrakis, gone.
Junction, your spacing guild, fuck them. We blew them up. It's our planet.
We're there now. This is my throne.
They're dominating. On paper, they're dominating, right? They're putting up numbers.
Right.
But when you look deeper and when you have this realization that Odrade has, you come to realize that the honored matre are using violence and being reactive and aggressive in the same way that a cornered animal might. A cornered animal that is driven at its core by terror and instinct. And it's because of this like fear-driven rigidity that they have within their sisterhood that the honored matre are unable to change or evolve. This is their MO. This is their culture. They're so steeped in it that they can't escape it. This is just what they know how to do. Damn the consequences, right? Disregard the consequences. It never happened. That's how they survived out there in the scattering, and that's what they're doing here in the Old Imperium. That's a pretty huge revelation for Odrade to realize that this group, at its core, is terrified of something and driven almost entirely by that terror.
But it's completely unconscious, because even the notion of fear is implicitly contains the possibility of not getting away. And they, at this point, it's all unconscious. They've just fallen into this trap. But I love what you're saying too, because like, yes, being, I think we even got multiple lines about a cornered animal and life when threatened finds a way to revitalize. The trees, the harvest of the fruit trees was even more ripe because the desert is growing. All of these different analogies come together in this book and then the previous book.
Yeah.
Where we see that, yes, they were cornered. They fought like hell to get out and they succeeded. And they are now very, very powerful. But they are also in the Imperium. Dama's looking down the barrel of the honored matre's extinction. It's a ways off, but she still sees. She sees a need for the Bene Gesserit science, and she can't recolor like the animalistic instinct.
Right.
And it's this overcommitment to an old strategy that did get you far, but now needs to pivot and now needs to say, we now need to be more subtle and be more long-term thinking and think beyond just the immediate now, because we're not cornered anymore. We're no longer in that disadvantaged position, at least not at this exact moment. Maybe when they go back to the scattering and they're back with the fucking amphibious slaves and the sentient tree houses and the fucking whistle ball, Pokeball face dancers. Yeah, that's going to suck. But like, you'll get there tomorrow. Like you don't have to worry about that today.
Yeah. And that change, that evolution, it's not easy, right? Nobody's saying it's easy. It's painful and messy and chaotic.
Yeah. Dude.
But Dama is out here trying, and clearly Odrade is out here doing much the same for the sisterhood.
I was going to say, like, how often in our own lives do we do something and find something that like works for us, and then we carry that a little bit too far, and we just do it for too long, or we're like, oh man, I'm the dude. Like, I think I like really liked anime when I was in middle school and like in elementary school, and everyone else did too. And I was like, I'm going to make my whole personality anime. And it worked. I had a bunch of friends who liked anime. And then I dyed my hair a bunch of fun colors. And my friends were the sorts of people to be like, yo, this guy's so fucking cool. And then I had my hair shoulder length black because I wanted to be Japanese when I went into high school. And go fucking figure. I didn't benefit from some like, having friends, or like being cool. And like that is like a microcosm example of you do a thing and it works and it's really hard to let go of, but there is a better solution.
Yeah.
Even if, whatever the thing is.
Right.
And then I became a voice actor is also true. So it all works out, folks. Lean into anime. It'll teach you the way.
Nani.
Do not tempt me. All of this, of course, leads us to the most obvious comparison and the one that we've been making this whole book club series, which is the same that we're talking about can be said for the Bene Gesserit, these last two books. And of course, the entire history of the Bene Gesserit. Odrade, through inspecting and thinking about the Honored Matre, is being forced to confront the idea that the Bene Gesserit suffer from a more refined, more sophisticated, basically the same fucking attitude.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
they survived in the shadows. They manipulated, they pulled strings. Everyone's a puppet. Everyone's someone to be manipulated and controlled. And that worked for so long, being subtle, moving slowly, being careful. And now that they're being faced with a catastrophic, cataclysmic threat, they are unable to shake their slow-moving, bureaucratic ways, and they are looking down the barrel of their own extinction. It's insane. They assume, time after time, Belanda's out here going, whoa, before we get too far into this conversation, let me pull up the archives.
Yeah.
Let me just, whoa, before you do anything.
We should have one more meeting about this, maybe.
We
one
should
more.
schedule another one-to-one touch base before we get to the, let's have a meeting about which meetings we need this month, because I'm getting a little confused. And it's fucking crazy, because also we are hearing from Odrade any minute now, no ships might appear in the sky and the Bene Gesserit are done.
Yeah.
And Belanda's like, we shouldn't be doing things too hastily. And Odrade's like, what, you want us to rush, Belanda? What the fuck do you, like, it's an insane, I don't know, that like thousands and thousands of years of survival from the Bene Gesserit and relative success for the Bene Gesserit has created this institutional arrogance in the sisterhood.
Yeah.
It's not in the same brutal terms as the Honored Matre. It never happened. We've never fucked up. But it kind of is. And now they also assume that their long-term planning like can't fail. They can't even picture a universe in which they've gone extinct. And of course, how could they? They have 300 follow-up plans that span the next 600,000 years. But at the end of the day, they are still losing a war and things are not going their way. And we are watching their old strategy fail.
Right.
Like another piece of this, I think, is right now the Bene Gesserit are relying on a few factors that are unprecedented. Right, Shiana, who can control the worms, Duncan, who's maybe a Gola of thousands of Golas, never happened before. Teg, who was Sonic the Hedgehog when he died, and 6'8", so hungry, and is now a child. And Murbella, an Honored Matre, becoming a Bene Gesserit.
Wow.
And a heretical Reverend Mother Superior who was only made that because their Reverend Mother Superior was fucking murdered in the middle of her. It's like, this is a time of unparalleled, unprecedented things.
Yes.
And most of who I'm talking about, Teg, Duncan, Murbella, even Shiana to a degree, because they're not exactly sure still what her vibe is. These are all massive unanswered questions, and yet they are like the cornerstones of the plans for how to get out of their current situation. And they don't fully understand them. And I'd like to point out that Teg and Duncan, Belanda keeps suggesting they kill them. She's
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. They confuse me. They're weird. They make me uncomfortable. Kill them.
Kill the Gola.
Kill the Gola.
I'll put a meeting on your calendar for tomorrow. We'll talk about it.
I'll put a meeting on the meeting for the, we'll talk about talking about it tomorrow. It's fucking crazy. Because again, like, Odrade recognizes how important these people are. She's giving Duncan unparalleled access to information. She's using them as her mentat. She understands that these unanswered questions might be the key to the survival tomorrow. But like, God, it's fascinating to watch the bureaucracy. I get the same feeling as when I was watching Chernobyl, where you're watching people who know that something needs to be done, but no one wants to do it. And O'Drade's the only one doing anything. And even O'Drade is like not really sure what she's supposed to do. It's fascinating to me.
It's fascinating stuff. And again, such a mirror to the Honored Matre's inability to also change in the face of an unprecedented universe and an unprecedented enemy.
Yeah.
The Honored Matre might have overcome whoever subjugated them out in the scattering, but now they're facing off against the Sisterhood, someone they've never faced off against. And it's all new and uncharted territory for them as well. And yet they're unable to evolve. And I think what's also interesting here is that even if, say, the Bene Gesserit were right all the time and had just figured everything out in the universe, they haven't figured out everything from the scattering. They're coming across details like sentient trees and amphibian slaves and
what the fuck?
Literal futars, cat people. All of this is like wildly Broadway new stuff. Yeah.
Storming the stage. And they're like,
literally,
we're going to use the tried and true method of manipulating them from the shadows. It's like, that's not going to work.
It's just not going to work anymore. And what this is forcing the Sisterhood to do, and O'Drade recognizes this certainly, is that it's forcing them to a breaking point, to an Amtal-like breaking point, where it's, will you break and die, or will you evolve, change, adapt, and get past this barrier?
Right.
They are at that barrier at this point. And in this chapter, before this revelation about the Honored Matre, O'Drade even thinks about Leto 2 and how Leto 2 recognized that the megalomania, this seizing of power, was dangerous. Quote, Leto 2, at least, had known what the Bene Gesserit knew, how to balance on the point of the sword, aware that you would be mortally cut when you slid from that position. The price you pay for seizing such power. Honored Matres ignored this inevitable fate. End quote.
Dude.
And the key word there, as far as I see it, is power. This seizing of power. We have talked a couple of times now over the book clubs about how wielding this overt power, this blunt weapon of power, in the way that the Honored Matres do, will inevitably lead to their downfall. They will be washed in a sea of their own blood. And even in the last episode, we talked about how Lucilla told Dama, yo, this just leads, the way you're ruling leads to rebellion and stagnation. Like that is just the slippery slope you're on.
And also now we know even the Honored Matre are probably a byproduct of that oppression, of the thing. Lucilla's
of the
going, very
slope.
Hey, you know, this is like a byproduct of it. And they're like, yeah, we are. Joke's on you. We should have learned this lesson from the get-go.
But they didn't. But they didn't.
It didn't happen.
And of course, we've talked over the course of the podcast about how the Bene Gesserit have intentionally stayed within the shadows, have never sat on the literal throne itself for this very reason. They don't want overt power because they don't want to face rebellion and stagnation. They have learned that lesson. And yet, I think the added nuance here that books 5 and 6 present to us is that they still seek power. It is just a subtle, nuanced, delicate form of power from the shadows, but it is power nonetheless. And so you are still balancing on the point of the sword.
And I ask you, by what right? And the Bene Gesserit, it did not appear to me that the Bene Gesserit insisted on such a right.
Just saying.
O'Drade, just saying. It's the same fucking thing. I also wanted to point out, you brought up Amtal Roll. I love that comparison. And I want to point out that Amtal Roll, or Rule, either way, I've heard it said both ways, was one of the epigraphs of today's chapters.
It was.
Right, the Amtal Roll, to know a thing well, know its limits, only when pushed beyond its tolerances will true nature be seen. And we're seeing that happen with the Bene Gesserit now. But then the Bene Gesserit commentary is, do not depend only on theory if your life is at stake. And it's like, but also the theory is important in this case because it seems like you're getting pushed to the breaking point and you're just going to die. Is that the solution?
Yeah.
Doesn't really
the Bene Gesserit comment, that epigraph stood out to me as well, because I was like, yo, the Bene Gesserit commentary is off here. This reeks of arrogance.
Yeah.
They're kind of shitting on the Amtal rule, not realizing that they're facing their own Amtal rule right now.
And also it's like in the face of, we talk about Amtal rule being this like, it's on primitive planets. It's how it's characterized as a concept.
Definitely.
But it fucking works. And the Fremen lived a stable, good life with that concept in mind. And it was brutal, for sure. There were brutality.
For sure.
The idea that Jameis has to give up his life to die to an offworlder just to prove the offworlders got hops or whatever. Like, that sucks. But like also works, and ultimately like the Fremen had like really a kind of good thing going until fucking Paul wanted some uncreased Jordans. So which is of course a Bene Gesserit fucking thing that they did from the shadows.
Yeah. It's a wielding of power. And, like zooming out, this is Frank Herbert commenting on power of any kind, right?
Right.
You are always balancing on that knife's edge if you are somebody who seeks out and wields power of any kind, whether overt like the Honored Matre or subtle like the Bene Gesserit. And this is a realization that O'Drade is coming to here as well. And that naturally sort of begs the question, what happens when you slip on that sword? How do you get cut?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, so far, we've not been presented with an answer when that happens to the Bene Gesserit. Duncan very directly asks Merbella, what happens if the Bene Gesserit fail?
Oh my God.
And she's got nothing. She doesn't have a response to that question.
Yeah. So here we have O'Drade. There's, we say, what happens if you fail? And it's like, well, that's not even on the table. We don't know.
We've never considered it.
We never considered it. O'Drade is now really balancing between her sort of own heretical tendency and her desire to like break free of old molds, old Bene Gesserit molds, to do the new thing, to embrace the mystery of tomorrow, to kind of follow in the footsteps of the tyrant. I get the impression she was really moved and changed fundamentally, being shown the message at Daras Balad. And that carries her forward. I think that's also part of Leto's plan, ultimately, when it comes down to it. But she has to, her role here is impossible. She has to either adhere to the kind of good old, they're entering into a fucking strategy that has a name, and it's in Latin. What is it? Extremis progressiva? Progressiva, the insurance policy.
Mm-hmm. You're in good hands.
From Geico, save 15% on the insurance progressiva. So this is, again, to the bureaucracy of all, they've given it a fucking label. They're like, oh yeah, are we going to initiate this big red button that we've like programmed and spent all this time thinking about? And it's like, or just do something new. And that's her two choices, right? It's stick with the old, do the thing that's been working for thousands and thousands of years, but is now very obviously not working, or do something new, take a chance, act in the chaotic present, and launch the order, the Bene Gesserit, and in many ways, the only hope for humanity. Because if the Bene Gesserit don't do anything, the Honored Matre are very likely going to drag humanity down with them. Now, it is worth kind of considering the possibility that like there are enough people out there in the scattering that humanity broadly is safe. The Golden Path is intact. But this old Imperium, that doesn't mean the old Imperium has no value. And we're talking about trillions of lives. So it's like, she is making a decision for trillions of lives.
Right.
And it is, and again, it's like, do you then throw humanity, all trillions and trillions of humans, into an unknown tomorrow by your own single-handed decisions? It's insane. And both paths, to be clear, risk annihilation. Yes. There is no historical precedent that she can lean on. She can't look back and go, oh yeah, we know that this is going to happen. And the fucking twist of it all is that she has prescience. She has some prescience, but she also knows not to use it. She's learned that lesson from Paul and from Leto too. Quote, I could lock our future into unchanging form. Muad'Dib and his tyrant son did that. And the tyrant spent 3,500 years extricating us. End quote.
Mm-hmm.
So her sea child and her heresy, it does put her at like an advantaged position in this case. I do think that she is like exactly the right person to steer the Bene Gesserit at this moment.
Right.
But also among all of this, she's cognizant of her Atreides lineage.
Yeah.
We got this fascinating quote today about the Atreidean gesture.
Yeah.
The idea of like the grand gestures where you become a story for all time. Paul's grandfather dying on the horns of a Seleucid bull to thousands of cheering and then screaming onlookers. It's like, what an insane thing. And people still talk about it thousands and thousands of years later. Is she going to be like those other Atreides people, like Paul, who fucking walked into the desert, just disappeared, a god into the sand, and then later came back alive and then got beaten to death by priests? Or like Leto, who was literally a god shot from a bridge and then exploded into a pile of fish. Like, what is she going to do? Is she going to do something, right? Is she going to launch humanity into this unknown tomorrow for it only to turn out that she was writing a good story, being a fun character in a cool story, this Atreidesian gesture, only to doom humanity?
Right.
And nothing else. Like, is that the instinct? Is that the pull? It's a weakness, Duncan says.
Yeah.
She's cognizant of herself as an Atreides. She wrote the Atreides Manifesto, after all. She's also uniquely human. I wanted to point this out. She talks, I think, Odrade, more than almost any other Bene Gesserit character that we meet in this book and in the previous, is so present. And she loves the Van Gogh painting. She comments on the overcooked quality of her food. She is recognizing the immediate now, and she's whistling. She sings to herself. She likes music. She likes poetry. She loves and doesn't let that like get beaten out of her by Bene Gesserit teachings, which also makes her more aware of what's at stake. Someone like Belanda could push a button to doom, a trillion people or whatever, because Belanda's thinking in archives and terms and strategy and chess pieces and all of that. I think Odrade thinks about all the human stories and the life and the mystery. She has pity even for the honored matre. But nevertheless, it is important that she do something. She has to do something. And we see her as she walks out among the cows. Belanda is about to figure out whatever her plan is. She says, Belanda's going to know by morning what I'm planning to do. So here we are with the cows under the starlight, enjoying the frost of the night.
Yeah. All right. That's the main thrust of our takeaway and the ideas we wanted to explore about Odrade's revelation and what it tells us about the honored matre, but almost more importantly, what it tells us about the sisterhood and how similar these two groups are in their arrogance and their inability to change out of the rigid forms that they've been stuck in for thousands of years.
Right.
As a final note, we did want to talk very briefly about sort of the meta nature of these chapters. I think it is a fair critique on a first read of this book to go, wow, there's a lot of Odrade just standing around thinking.
Yeah.
That is true. On a, like a plot level, on a surface level, much of this book is exactly that. It's Odrade walking, sitting, and thinking, doing lots and lots and lots of thinking. And we are tapped into many of her, frankly, circling thoughts, right? She's thinking about the same things over and over again as well. So we are also reading about the same things over and over again. That can be frustrating on an initial read. And truthfully, on my first read of this book, I found that incredibly boring because I read it at a surface plot level.
Yeah.
I listened to the audiobook and found myself often falling asleep during these chapters because just like a whole lot of nothing was happening. But of course, as we're talking about today, as we dig deeper, there is nuance and depth to these thoughts. And as we've discussed, we talked about this a lot in Heretics, Frank, especially in these latter two books, seems to be really putting us in the shoes of the character, forcing us, the reader, to almost feel exactly what the characters are feeling in these moments as well. And so what Odrade is feeling, the anxious spiraling thoughts, that's us reading the same thing over and over again. What Odrade is feeling, the decision paralysis. What do I do? Do I do A, B, C, D? What are my options? We keep reading about that as well, but we haven't yet made a decision. We're still circling at the drain in this book. What Odrade is feeling in the bureaucracy of the Bene Gesserit, these goddamn meetings with Belanda. That's us, the reader, as well. We're in these
Same.
goddamn chapters with Belanda over and over and over, and she's looking at us.
Truly, every time Belanda's name shows up on the page, I go, oh, God.
Exactly. And what's kind of the stroke of brilliance there and the subtlety is that is exactly what O'Drade is feeling and what Frank wants us to feel. Frank Herbert wants us to be in O'Drade's shoes, not just from a narrative standpoint, but emotionally.
Yeah.
And that's going out on a limb, right? It is a risk to say, I'm going to annoy and bore the shit out of my reader because my characters are feeling that.
Right. Yeah.
But it's pretty clear at this point in these latter two books that is intentionally what Frank is doing. For example, we talked earlier, speaking of Bene Gesserit bureaucracy and Belanda, remember that vote that we took no part of because we were not part of that vote. O'Drade was not part of that book. We are in O'Drade's mind, in O'Drade's feelings. We were never going to be part of that vote. We were never going to read about that. That is not what O'Drade is feeling. Those are just reports that she is getting. So we, the reader, also simply get those reports from Belanda and Tamlin.
Yeah.
It's all very intentional here.
Another example that came up just occurred to me.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the weird 4K definition of the farmer couple.
Yeah.
It is so weird to get that much detail about people in Frank Herbert's writings.
Yeah.
What a way to give us the visceral feeling of weirdness that Duncan has looking at these two fucking farmers with their Pokeball approaching him in his like mind palace. Like, it is exactly that. It is like when we talked to Alt-Shift-X about the weirdness of the Tleilaxu chapter or the unknownness of the scattering. It is these little moments where Frank goes, I'm going to give you way too much detail and you're going to feel off-put because I've never told you about someone's eye color before, or they're like the close cut hair and like too many details about a person suddenly. And it starts to really feel like, ew, who's writing this? This is so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point. It's a very surreal moment.
It is. Yeah. And I really like this last point you made here about this idea, the Frank putting us in the shoes of these characters.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that Belanda seems to be the substitute for the reader here.
Yeah.
Frank is using Belanda as a substitute for what perhaps the frustrated reader on their first read of this book might be feeling.
Yeah.
Because literally in this chapter, Belanda is sitting across from O'Drade, watching her think, waiting for her to do something, anything.
Yeah.
And perhaps, like Belanda, we, the reader, are also finally, in piecemeal fashion, bit by bit by bit, starting to put together O'Drade's plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And folks, maybe by morning, we'll have it all figured out.
I like that idea of Frank knowing that he's given enough that maybe you can start to figure it out, and then him deciding to write, Belanda will have it figured out by morning.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
If you think of Belanda as the reader,
yeah,
that's exciting foreshadowing because it feels like we're going to figure this out, baby.
Also, knowing the pacing of Frank's books, I feel like we're about to hit this fucking gas pedal. But yeah, oh my God. So 3 incredible chapters where almost nothing happened. We were told about things that happened off page and nothing happened on page. And it was still deeply thrilling with so much to talk about. And a takeaway to kind of get your thoughts spinning.
That's right.
Around O'Drade and have some sympathy for our girl. Again, I still see people complaining about this book online. Give a fucking girl a break. O'Drade's got so much on her plate. Yeah. She can't make a decision.
Truly.
Have some empathy. We are going to take one last break, but don't go anywhere, dear listener. We've got some kind of French-inspired spice morsels for you right after this.
Welcome back, folks. Let's wrap up today's episode by chomping down on some delicious French-inspired cuisine in our spice morsels today. So, first morsel today is Les majesté. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'm going to put a little fake bad French accent on it.
That's great.
So during Duncan's story about the dog, we get this passage when Teg asks if all they are just dogs to the Bene Gesserit. Are we just dogs to them? Quote, in a way, never forget it. When you get back to your rooms, look up Les Majestés. It helps place our relationship to our masters. End quote. So obviously we're going to do everything Duncan tells us to do. When we got back to our rooms, we looked up the term. So here's what we learned. I did not know this term before today, and maybe you, dear listener, will learn something today as well.
Yeah.
Lèse majesté is defined by Merriam-Webster as, quote, a crime such as treason committed against a sovereign power, or alternatively, it's defined as, quote, an offense violating the dignity of a ruler as the representative of a sovereign power, end quote.
Mm-hmm.
And Merriam-Webster goes on to explain the history of the term as well. Quote, Lèse majesté came into English by way of Middle French, from Latin lesa majestas, which literally means injured majesty, end quote.
So dramatic. Yeah, love it.
So dramatic. I love it. So, put simply and put another way, lèse majesté is pretty all-encompassing. It includes anything that one might do to diminish a ruler's dignity.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost more of an attitude rather than an action. It's not just a treasonous act that you commit. You could commit lèse majesté simply by just implying that a leader is flawed or fallible. It's a pretty broad and encompassing term.
I saw it distinguish that like treason's an action that you do. Lèse majesté is something that you could just say. You could just say something, not even follow it up with an action. No like measurable harm is done, yet you have suggested that the king sucks.
That's right.
Like there you've done it. You've committed the crime.
Well, you've committed lèse majesté.
Right.
So this sent me down a bit of a research rabbit hole, and I wanted to share a very quick, not so fun fact that I found. Thailand has one of the world's strictest lèse majesté laws, which was enacted by the military-backed government to protect the monarchy's reputation. The military basically had a coup and took over the government back in like the early 2010s. And I was reading a BBC article on this, and this is how the BBC explains it. Quote, Article 112 of Thailand's criminal code says anyone who defames, insults, or threatens the king, the queen, the heir apparent, or the regent will be punished with a jail term between 3 and 15 years.
3 is the minimum. That's crazy.
However, there is no definition of what constitutes an insult to the monarchy. And critics say this gives the authorities leeway to interpret the law in a very broad way, end quote. And the article goes on to detail, for example, how this law has been used to prosecute people for things as innocuous as liking a post that's deemed offensive to the monarchy or posting pictures of the late king's favorite dog.
Oh my God.
Doing that may get your ass thrown in jail.
For a minimum of 3 years.
That's right. Now, of course, critics accuse the government of using this law as a cudgel, right? Like a political tool to stifle free speech and criticism against its own rule and its own policies, right? Yeah. They're not just randomly throwing grandmas into jail for liking things, but if you are someone suspected of having sort of politically radical views and you like the wrong thing at the wrong time, we got your ass. Sniped, bitch.
I also did quite a bit of research on this term, and like it is crazy. You can, dear listener, if you just want to know how crazy the world is, I had no idea. So many countries have official law dictating do not talk shit about your leader. And in fact, the US did, and I think it was like 1806 or something like that. And then it was overwritten and dropped basically. But like, it's crazy. I mean, it's an interesting idea for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And for what it's worth, that is one of the more important rights that we have here in the States, is that we are allowed to shit talk anyone in power. And you don't realize how powerful that is until you live somewhere like Thailand, where liking the wrong Twitter post can get your ass thrown in jail because you're suspected of being a political dissident.
That's rough, because most of my posts on social media are like the late dogs of my my political rulers. That's like 80% of my content.
You need to clear your likes right now.
Anytime a dog dies, I'm like, that's free content for old Leo.
So bringing this back to Dune and wrapping up this spice morsel, having this added context, having this definition of lèse majesté, and seeing how, for example, it's implemented in a country like Thailand really gives Duncan's statement a lot of weight. Because remember, he's saying all of this in front of the comm-eyes. Belanda can rewind the tape and watch this.
Yeah.
And you could argue the statement itself, him even just saying this, could be considered by some to be lèse majesté against the sisterhood, right? Like, you've crossed a line and you shouldn't be saying this about the sisterhood.
Yeah, even Mirbella's like, Belanda's not going to like you saying that.
Right.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
They're not going to like that.
And this is a moment to me that reads as Duncan diverging from the handbook, right? Mm-hmm. Duncan going a bit rogue and maybe planting a seed in Teg that he's not meant to. And certainly it'll piss Belanda off. O'Drade might be cool with it, but someone who's so by the books, like Belanda, is going to be raging about this. There's going to be like 12 meetings on her calendar tomorrow. On a more serious note, I did want to also call out that Duncan saying this about the sisterhood paints them in a pretty damning light. Mm-hmm. A light that I would argue is not so different from the honored matres, who we are told in these chapters rule over their servants out of fear of punishment. If you fuck up, we'll kill you. We'll punish you. And so their servants go to any lengths to not fuck up.
Yeah.
And so that sort of operating out of a fear of punishment, what is a lèse majesté relationship if not a relationship that is grounded in exactly that, the fear of punishment by a ruler that you speak out against?
Yeah. How often is O'Drade thinking about, I hope no one overheard me say that, or I will not say this out loud because that would freak them out, or like I did this knowing it's going to freak. Like, there's such an awareness of, she almost got ousted, I think, from her position by a vote just for doing her best. And it's like, because she's broken some rule, some law, she's being impeached because she laughed out loud and said, "It's good to be alive."
Right.
Fuck you. No, it's not. Get out of your position.
She liked the wrong fucking tweet.
Yeah.
And almost got ousted. So I think it is pretty damning for Duncan to acknowledge this about the sisterhood, that we are all just dogs to them. It very much reads to me like how the honored matre also treat their subordinates.
Yeah. I think Frank's given Duncan the kind of token of he's calling it as it is, basically, in this moment.
And that's why you gotta love him. That's sexy motherfucker.
He's so good at rock climbing too. God. Well, our second morsel today is also with Duncan, chapter. A lot of fun. This one is the Danian Marinette or something. Danian Marinette. Marinette? Something. In today's reading, Duncan tells Teg, quote, "You liked to drink Danian Marinette, a very fine brandy, I recall." End quote. And we leapt to action, opening tabs, opening Wikipedia, Googling things. What is Brandy? Who's Brandy? I don't know her. Does she go to this school? Now, as it turns out, Danian Marinette has also already come up in this series.
I forgot about this.
I had forgotten about this as well. This is in Heretics, in the pub scene, when Teg has entered the soldiers' pub near the end of the book. Quote, "Teg scanned the room while someone was getting him a glass. When it was thrust into his hand, it was, as he expected, the deep blue of Danian Marinette. These old soldiers knew his preferences."
Yeah, they did.
End quote. They're like, yeah, this tall fucking guy loves brandy. So let's discuss what we know about this fun beverage, because I think this is kind of fun. And obviously, just to get out of the way, half of the beverage, Danian Marinette. Danian is anything from Dan, a.k.a. Caladan, a.k.a. the planet where House Atreides ruled since like 8000 AG, something like that. 8711 AG? I don't know. Who's to say? The word Marinette is a little bit more mysterious and took a little bit more digging. And ultimately, I wasn't able to find anything like rock solid. But I have a theory that I think works with the tie to the maritime ocean water planet Caladan, basically. So I think Frank started with the word marine, or marin en français, which is like basically marine or like ocean like, or it's like, it's the word marine in English, but it's also, if you say like marin in French, it's like a sailor, or like, I don't know, it's like the ocean. And then the French suffix et is like connoting endearment. Like you might add that to the end of something as a way of saying like, oh, little something, right? And as it turns out, Marinette with an extra T is literally a French given name, which if we were to like try to break it into its composite pieces, could be interpreted as like little sailor or little person of the sea, or like little, something like that, right?
Is that a marinette in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
I mean, could be both. Could be both, honestly. Always enjoy recording with you, buddy. Now, regarding the color, brandies are always not blue. They're never blue. That's a weird way to say it. Brandies are never blue. So apparently this is just another instance where Frank was like, what if I made a brandy, but it's all ocean themed? Just marinette, and then it's like blue like the ocean, and it's just all, it's all very like fun and sci-fi. And then finally I tried to find like, oh, what if like you today wanted to try Teg's favorite brandy? Yeah. Like maybe there is a brand that like Frank had in mind. Yeah. Kind of a dead end as well. But there's a type of brandy called a brandy de Jerez. I think it's Spanish, which is a type of brandy made in a coastal part of Spain. And of course, most other brandies are made more inland. It's a type of wine. It's like a condensed wine. So we've learned a lot about brandies, all of us, I'm sure. Yeah. And the biggest takeaway is there is basically no real world brandy that you could have. But I will say, if you wanted to try Teg's favorite drink, you could do brandy de Jerez. Get a glass, food coloring, make it as blue as you can. Get up on a stool or a step ladder so that you're 6'7", and you'll have the real, authentic Teg experience.
That's right. Your Teg cosplay will be incomplete without some blue food coloring and a brandy. And
meanwhile, people are like, spice essence, and you're like, no, it's a different kind of poison. Yeah.
Right? They're like, oh, I saw this in the Dune movie. It's the
like, blue juice that makes everything worse. No.
This is a Danny and Marinette.
You go, silence!
You dumb fucking idiot. I'm Miles Teg.
And then you run around the room as fast as you can. And they go, my God, he's so fast.
God, he must have read the 6th book. I gave up in Messiah.
I need to nuke this whole apartment. There's no way we're going to beat that guy in one-on-one fighting.
All right, folks. Those are our morsels today. We hope you learned something.
Yeah.
And that, in fact, is our episode today.
Yeah.
Another great one. I cannot wait to continue in this book. I am so genuinely having such a blast.
Same.
Speaking of continuing in this book, here's your homework for the next episode.
Look at this picture of your home.
No.
Read
Right.
more of the book.
Lovingly look at this picture of your home for a long time. But then also make sure you've read chapters 22, 23, and 24, the next 3 chapters in the book. Or if your edition is different from ours, read through the chapter that ends on this line. Quote, "Get in tune. Don't think. Do it." End quote.
So what do we think? Palpatine or Nike? Like, which is the bit? Which is the funnier bit?
I like it as a Palpatine bit.
The Palpatine bit is pretty. Maybe Palpatine in Nikes. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Unlimited power.
Nikes.
But it's just him running a marathon. He's like, unlimited power.
That final stretch of the marathon. Yeah. Okay. All right. Dear listener, before we let you go, we want to remind you of some ways that you can stay in touch with us, and of course, ways that you can support what we do here at Gom Jabbar. And of course, the two best ways. One is to become a patron over at patreon.com/GomJabbar. $5 a month gets you a bunch of cool benefits, and we got some fun stuff on the way. So check it out. And of course, we also have Dune themed swag at our merch store, which is going to have a new URL soon. So stay tuned for news about our new merch store just in time for the holidays, as it turns out, unless you're listening to this on the public feed, at which point you fucking missed it. Consider checking out the first link, the Patreon link, if you want to not miss it in the future.
That's right. And of course, this is an evergreen reminder that applies to Patreon listener, an evergreen reminder that applies to Patreon listeners and public feed listeners. Email us, gomjabarpodcast@gmail.com. That email has never changed in many, many years of making this podcast. Send us your thoughts. Send us your questions. Send us pictures of your cute pets. Send us photos of your Danian Marinette concoction. Homemade.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Drink responsibly, but that would be fun. Send us pictures. Send all of that to gomjabarpodcast@gmail.com. We love to get your thoughts and questions and observations as you read along with us.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Get a brandy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to try. I mean, it's like a lot to track down like a specific type of brandy.
Right.
But like,
it could be any brandy.
Yeah. No one's going to check.
It's just going to be blue at the end of the day.
I found a type of brandy that they literally age in casks that they sail around the oceans. Like they put.
Does that help the brandy?
Maybe.
Or is it a marketing stunt?
It certainly costs more.
You know? Perfect. Does the brandy know it's sailing the seven seas, or
that's what makes it
just
taste
thinks
better.
It's in a cask?
It knows sea shanties. It's great.
The brandy's like, I'm on a Disney cruise around the world. Whee!
Oh boy, I'm drunk on brandy. Well, friends, there is no real ending. It's just the place where you stop the recording. But this podcast is always one step beyond logic. So help spread the word of Muad'Dib and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And be sure to check out the other shows on the Lord Party Podcast Network on lordparty.com. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at lore_party and on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, whoever controls the podcast controls the universe. We'll see you on the golden path.